Welcome to the collection of the wildest and craziest AITA Reddit stories of all time. From wild betrayals to shocking twists, these tales will leave you questioning who is really in the wrong. Let's dive in together. The first story for this collection is from Silver Sky NN. AITA: if I cut off my father if he stays with his girlfriend after she assaulted me. My father and I have always had a pretty good relationship, but TBH, it has been strained since I had my first child about 9 months ago, as I've not felt he's been very kind or supportive towards me. My husband, Baby, and I went to visit him recently. He lives in a vacation spot, so we visit every winter. His girlfriend, who he's been with for a few years, moved in with him last year. His girlfriend and I have always gotten along, and I really loved her. I was prepared to allow my son to call her grandma even, and encouraged my dad to propose when he told me he was thinking about getting married to her. To my surprise, only 3 days into our visit, his girlfriend came home from work and lost it at me, and my dad witnessed the entire thing, screaming at me, accusing me of ridiculous things, saying horribly mean things to me. I have to spare you the details because otherwise the post will be so long, but essentially, she is an almost 60-year-old woman who was never married or had children, but always wanted to. And it seemed like she was angry that I have a child, and she never did, and was using me as a punching bag as a result. I felt like I was on the school playground and getting bullied by the mean girl. Eventually, she got so angry that she came an inch within my face, screaming insults at me, waving her long fingernails in my face. This is where my dad stepped in and had to literally grab her arms, hold her back to prevent her from attacking me. But she kept escaping him and going after me, screaming at me, chasing me around the apartment. At one point, she started aggressively running toward the room where my baby was sleeping, screaming her head off, and tried to open the door to wake up my baby. My dad grabbed her at the last second and prevented her from doing this. But when she tried to go into my baby's room like that, I knew there was no coming back from this, and I would never be willing to be near her again. She also put her hands on me aggressively after I told her not to touch me. Throughout this whole altercation, I did not scream at her or touch her at all. I tried my best to calmly defend myself the entire time, and my dad, who witnessed it, agrees I handled the situation as well as anyone could have. My dad felt her behavior was completely out of line, mean, aggressive, and scary. Since the incident occurred, I have not seen her, and I made it clear to my dad, I will never go near this woman again, and cannot let her near my child again. When she was running towards his room, it was honestly one of the scariest moments of my life, because I really felt like she might try to hurt him. I even considered calling the police and filing assault charges against her, but decided not to, as I do not like dealing W police typically. The problem I am having with my father is that he has told me that he loves this woman and does not want to break up with her, even though he witnessed the entire event and agrees her behavior was unbelievably horrible, aggressive, and scary. As a mother myself, I cannot understand why he would want to stay with a person who assaulted his child. If someone did that to my son, I would leave them immediately and never see or speak to them again. I am so disappointed in my father that he would want to stay with this woman after this. The entire thing was traumatizing for me, and this happened several weeks ago, and I've barely recovered. I told my dad that if he stays with her, I will really have no choice but to stop having a relationship with him as well. And that also means he cannot have a relationship with my son, his only grandchild. He says it is unfair for me to make him choose between her and I. And to that I told him she is the one making him choose because she's the one who attacked me. So AITA, if I cut my dad off if he stays with this woman? OP is not an AH for cutting off his father. OP's father's girlfriend physically assaulted her and tried to enter her baby's room aggressively. Her father witnessed everything, yet still chooses to stay with her. OP is right to cut him off to protect herself and her child. Not OP. OP's father and his girlfriend are AHs, and I would rate OP's father 3.5 and OP's father's GF 4 out of 5 on the AH scale, and OP gets a 0. Let's now jump on to the next story from Berry Plus Cream. AITA: for joking about celebrity crushes at a birthday party. I, 24F and pregnant, and my husband, 29M, went to a friend's birthday party, 28F, at a restaurant about a week ago. Birthday girl, BG I guess, invited a lot of our friends from church, who are all within the 20 to 30 age span as well. I sat right next to BG, at her request, and my husband sat at her other side. There were about 18 of us total. Some of us were drinking casually, but I wasn't, and neither was my husband, just to clarify. For background context, I'm autistic and also cope with a lot of chronic pain that my pregnancy sometimes exacerbates, and this day happened to be a pretty painful and exhausting day, even before the party. I went just to support BG. I truly wanted her to be happy, but I was distracted by my own discomfort, and my verbal filter may have been fuzzy, which is why I'm trying so hard to figure this out. At some point, a birthday game started. Questions and multiple choice answers BG herself wrote. Things like favorite animal, best vacay spot, and notably, ranking a list of her celebrity crushes. I say this to stress. My following comments were not out of nowhere, but in direct response to this last question. I laughed when this was asked, and made a comment she herself has made, joked about, seemed completely fine with in private, that her celeb crushes change at a whim, except for Bruno Mars. It's always Bruno Mars at the top. She adores the man. Your celebrity crush changes every week, but Bruno Mars is always the one you melt over. This question is rigged, is the phrasing I remember using. I did also throw in that I felt betrayed she didn't include Shamar Moore, as I had just showed him to her that week, and I thought we bonded over examples of fine chocolate men together. Again, an inside joke. I did say the first bit loudly enough that everyone heard me, but the second comment was quieter and directly aimed at BG, to which she laughed and talked more about the birthday game to the table at large. I didn't notice anyone take it badly. People laughed. BG did too. I moved to curl up by my husband when I could, and I continued joking with everyone. I even discussed my own celebrity crushes with other ladies. I occasionally stepped aside to the bathroom to decompress and regulate my own pain, but came back quickly, and sure I was visibly cheerful, a total of maybe thrice. We left the party as it winded down. All seemed well. I've spent the week thinking everything was fine. No one has said anything to me about ill behavior or my jokes until last night. BG came over to mine specifically to hash out what turned out to be around 7 or 8 people approaching her at different times after the party, claiming to be shocked that I'd so openly imply she's a SLT and air out our relationship tensions in front of everyone at her birthday party. Yes, that exact phrasing was used, and I'm appalled. And no little bit hurt that people I've known for 2 years think that's what I meant. I'm also baffled at relationship tensions. I'll admit she and I are a little complicated at times, but I'm sure my demeanor didn't reflect that. And we've been fine recently, something BG confirmed. I'm also completely floored at the fact that someone overheard my Shamar Moore comment and had a problem with me commenting on us liking black guys. I don't even know what to do about that. According to BG, she defended me, to the point that herself and one of the girls has a small falling out about it all. I'm so upset it affected her this way, and additionally upset at BG admitting she became hurt and embarrassed after being approached repeatedly about it, and even said she doesn't know what our relationship is going to look like in the future. It's worth noting, BG went on to say that people had a lot of issues with different things I said in general at the party, but she hasn't shared with me what else I did wrong, and absolutely refuses to give further details. I can't imagine what else is going on, and asking my husband has left us both confused and exhausted from recounting the night repeatedly. My husband was present and sober for the whole party, witnessed this all, and very firmly doesn't think I did anything wrong. In fact, he is pissed I'm dealing with what he considers petty drama while 4 months pregnant and coping with pre-existing health issues. He's adamant that this isn't good for me, and is trying to get new connections started with other friend groups in church, so we can distance ourselves without risking me being isolated. Myself, I'm more than a little miffed that people that are apparently talking behind my back like this have had no problem cooing over my ultrasound pics just yesterday night. But at the same time, I have only heard from BG, and I'm loath to approach others about it and turn it into a whole he said, she said, messy gossip train. All in all, I'm devastated. Feel like I screwed up a friend's birthday, and am genuinely struggling with the idea that people I considered close friends are being overwhelmingly fake to my face. I don't know if this is the divide between autistic difficulties and neurological expectations. I don't know if I really messed up, or even fully how I messed up. I just hate how my brain works, my social skills, and my own personality at this point, and I want to just stay in bed and never talk to anybody ever again. AITA for how I conducted myself at the party? OP is not an AH for making lighthearted jokes based on BG's own comments, and GB even laughed on OP's jokes. The overreaction from others seems rooted in gossip and misinterpretation. BG refusing to clarify further suggests unnecessary drama. OP didn't intend harm and shouldn't blame herself. As for scores, I would rate OP 0 out of 5 on the AH scale. Let's now jump onto the next story from MJO87003. AITA for removing my friend, 20F, from my wedding. I am a 21F, and last month I married my wife, 22F. All in all, the wedding was lovely, and I couldn't be happier. But there was one friend that nearly ruined the whole ordeal. We'll call her B for the sake of the story. I've known B since elementary school, but we really only became friends in our 20s. B was, and still is to my knowledge, in an open relationship. Of course, there's nothing wrong with that, but B pretty much made it her whole personality. She's a very peace and love, hippy-dippy kind of girl. So, it's safe to say she often talked about positivity and her escapades often, despite me being engaged. She would often make passes at me, calling me beautiful, saying she would go for it if she could, and even kissing my cheek one time. Now, you have to understand, girl-on-girl flirting is so much harder to pick up on. For a while, I just thought this was friendly, though it was pretty much confirmed when B asked my fiancé at the time, and I for a threesome, despite her always being cold and distant to my soon-to-be wife. It bothered me quite a bit, and my wife even more so. We're monogamous, and felt it was odd she'd ask when she knew this. However, this was more just icing on the cake with B. So, as the wedding came closer, I'd picked my bridesmaids and maid of honor. My maid of honor was my close friend M, someone I felt was mature and caring enough to take on the role. B was a bridesmaid, and she'd never shown any protest to that. Not until I made a group chat with my wedding party. As soon as I sent the first message, I got a private message from B. I won't copy-paste it, but she basically said she wanted to arrive earlier than everyone else, talk over the wedding with me, and get ready with me privately. She said she could be the secret maid of honor, while M could hold the title officially. I thought this was super odd. Not only did I find it rude of her to undermine my MOA, but she wanted to be alone with me when the plan was for all of us to get ready together. I politely explained she was welcome to help out however she could, and she was allowed to get ready with me, but that we would not get a chance alone, and M would continue to be my MOA. Luckily, she seemed to accept this answer, though I felt odd keeping it to myself, so I decided to tell me about it privately. It was about her after all. When I told her, she got a strange look on her face and said she needed to tell me something. A week or so earlier, I threw my wife a bachelorette party. Myself, my bridal party, and a few other friends attended. My wife's bridal party was mostly family flying in week of, so they couldn't attend. Apparently during the party, B had pulled M and another bridesmaid aside, explaining that she was thinking about asking me to reconsider day of the wedding. I never really found out why she would do this, but both M and the bridesmaid strongly advised against it. M told me she didn't want to stress me out with this information, but with B saying she wanted to talk over the wedding alone, felt very sketchy with that added context. I was shocked, but I really tried to chalk it all up to the fact we'd been drinking that night. I thanked me for telling me, and life continued on normally. Then the day of the wedding came. We all met up at an Airbnb my wife's parents rented to get ready. My wife and I were going to do a first look and photos at a park, then drive to the venue for the ceremony. This is important later. I'd gotten a text from B earlier that day saying she was going to get ready on her own and just meet us for photos. So, after insisting she'd arrive early, she was now not even coming to get ready. Whatever, and got ready with my bridesmaids. It's important to note that B smokes weed. Like a lot. Though I'd asked her a while back if she could be sober on the wedding day, just until after the ceremony concluded. As we're getting ready, M shows me B's Snapchat story. In it, she has a new dab pen and is videoing herself hitting it, directly going against what I'd asked. I was distraught, but was again trying to give her the benefit of the doubt. Maybe one hit wouldn't kill her? We arrive at the park for photos, and B doesn't show up until we're getting called over by the photographer. Her dress is covered in makeup stains, and she is practically stumbling from how high she is. Even my parents could tell something was up. We do our first look, take photos, and my wife and I hop in the car to head to the venue. On the drive, I confide in her about everything going on with B, how I felt really disrespected and wasn't sure how to continue. My wife went on to tell me she was going to ask me to have B removed. She could tell B was high and saw her smoking during the photos. This made my wife really uncomfortable, and the secret maid of honor / bachelorette party were just fuel to the fire. With that added insight, I called M and my mom, telling them we no longer wanted B to attend. They both promised they'd handle it. We arrived and went upstairs to the bridal suite. My mom came up later and told me she'd escorted B out. I don't know exactly what my mom said, but it was something along the lines of, "You must have lost your damn mind." Not exactly friendly, but clear on the message that she wasn't welcome anymore. So, imagine my surprise when I look out a window into the ceremony hall and see B storming up the stairs. My family sees my face go pale and puts 2 and 2 together. Everyone goes to block the door, completely forgetting about the second entrance. B takes the opportunity and comes right up to me asking, "So what? You want me to leave?" I'm in pure shock. I'm literally minutes from walking down the aisle, bouquet in hand, and I'm being confronted by someone I'd asked to be removed. Before I can even stammer out a word, my wife steps between us and tells B to get out. B retaliates. "What? She can't speak for herself? Are you going to control her forever?" When B continues to refuse, more family steps in, demanding she leave. Finally, my mother-in-law approaches, placing a hand on B's arm and guiding her to the door. B starts yelling, "Don't touch me! You're assaulting me!" Once they're out of the room, B slaps my mother-in-law. My brother literally held my wife back as a venue employee quickly came and made B leave. My mother-in-law was not hurt, as it was very minor. Not even 5 minutes later, I walked down the aisle. It was a beautiful ceremony that quickly made me forget about all the drama that had ensued, but I'd be lying if I said I didn't have to wipe tears before making my entrance. After the wedding, we found out B had been making posts about my wife and I. A friend showed us the screenshot because obviously we'd both been blocked. She said we'd kicked her out because we thought her dress was slutty, and we were racist. She's Pakistani and we're white. She also said in these posts that I was a victim to conservatism, basically implying I had no say in her removal. Since she'd blocked me, I made a post telling the whole story and addressing her crazy accusations. So far, everyone's been on my side. Even B's sister and roommate have gone low to no contact with her over this. I keep reminding myself that I didn't do this. These are just the consequences of her own actions. But at the same time, I feel if I'd communicated more sturdy boundaries with B, none of this would have happened. OP is not an AH for removing B from her wedding. B repeatedly disrespected boundaries, made inappropriate advances, ignored OP's requests, got high at the wedding, and caused a scene. Given her behavior, OP is 100% justified in removing her from her wedding. She is an AH, and I would rate OP's friend 3 out of 5 on the AH scale, and OP gets a 0. Let's now jump onto the next story from your petty potato. AITA for trying to sort things out after a fight with my mom. I, 15F, had a fight with my mother over my grades in my exams. I didn't fare so well in them, and I was really disappointed. I listened to Mama's explanation in the afternoon about what I should do to improve my grades, and Mama was very supportive by not shouting. I could tell she was disappointed in me, and I was feeling bad, so I was crying. Mama couldn't understand why. She kept telling me to move on and stop moping. I tried, but I was feeling really bad. Well, in the evening, I started crying again after coming back from class, and Mama hugged me, which made me so happy because Mama usually doesn't comfort me. And then I had to go to blow my nose because it was leaking very badly. When I came back, Mama told me to sit down, and I did. And I just wanted to cry to get it all out, but Mama was just explaining the same thing she'd explained in the afternoon, and I told her, "Can you please for 5 minutes not explain, and just hug me and let me rant?" She said I'm a pessimist and I'm weak-minded because I constantly want to feel bad for myself. Then she continued explaining, and I nodded along, but in a patronizing way, because I just wanted her to cajole me, and Mama got mad. She told me I was disrespectful and rude, and told me to starve. She hadn't made food yet because she needed to order the groceries, and that if I wanted to, I could go find a new mother, and she'd take care of the boys. My cousins, who lost their mother a year ago. Those two things, I feel, were just a little harsh. In the case of the boys, it's been a bone of contention between us, because whenever I try and tell her, "Please don't be the boys' mama, you're my mama," she gets mad and says I'm being controlling. But I've tried to tell her it's because I'm insecure about that, because Mama's always said she wanted a boy, because they're less fussy. I gave Mama about half an hour to cool off, and then I came to apologize, and Mama said I constantly play the victim card, and that I hold this sense of thinking I'm being treated horribly by my parents, and that I think that she's supposed to be fine with everything I do. Then the fight escalated, and she said that even if I apologized, it didn't mean anything, and she didn't have a switch she could just turn off and not be made anymore. She said, "You can hold a grudge for so long, but I can't do that. I'm supposed to be happy with just one sorry and done. I shouldn't be mad." Then I said that she'd never really apologized. She asked me what she had to apologize for. I asked her if I could tell her. She said yes. I told her that one time while taking up my French work, we had a fight, and she said she didn't love me. And it might not seem like a lot, but that hit me very hard. When I told her, she said I was digging out skeletons, and she didn't have to apologize for anything. She said I was an ungrateful wretch, and that she couldn't give me the kind of love I want because I was expecting too much out of her. She said I was a typical girl, wanting to be comforted and fawned on when I feel sad. I asked her if she loved me, because during fights I get extremely insecure and nervous that in that moment my mama hates me. She said she wasn't going to stroke my ego by telling me, and that I should know if she loves me or not. I told her I know she loves me in the bigger picture, and that I just wanted reassurance that in this moment she still did. She said she owed me nothing and wasn't going to tell me. She also brought up my cat, who passed away years ago. She said I didn't appreciate him while he was alive. She said while cleaning his litter tray, I used to hold my breath and act so disgusted, but now I'd be willing to do that to get a new pet. I was 10 when my cat passed away. Mama had always cleaned his litter tray, and I really, really miss him. So much that when he passed on, I went into depression, which my mother refuses to believe I ever had, or that I still have. I had a glass of milk that night and went to bed. She asked me if I wanted anything, but I said no, because after fights if I eat, I always end up throwing up. I know Mama was extremely caring, with not yelling at me at all throughout the day, even though my grades were horrible. But this has been a recurring issue, where my mother doesn't care about emotions. If anything, sad happens, she expects me to just move on with life, but then if I move on without emotion, she says I have a black heart. But if I do cry and show emotion, I can't do it for more than 5 minutes, because then it's crocodile tears, and I'm being too sensitive. I told her once that her hitting me when she's mad at me is really harsh, and that it scares me. And now, whenever there are cases of any child abuse on the news, she'll come and show it to me and say, "See, you're not going through anything." She constantly tells me how badly her parents treated her, and I know she's a better parent than them. I just feel like Mama says some really hurtful things, which she doesn't even think are hurtful. Mama doesn't know how to comfort someone for longer than a few minutes. So now, when I'm feeling sad, I've started just telling her, "Mama, for 10 minutes, please just hug me and tell me everything will be all right." But then she laughs and tells me to toughen up. Do I have unrealistic expectations? AITA. OP is not an AH for wanting comfort, and it is not weakness. She is seeking emotional support, but her mother dismisses her feelings, invalidates her pain, and makes hurtful remarks, which is unfortunate. OP's expectations are not unrealistic. Rather, her mom lacks empathy, so she is an AH, and I would rate OP's mom 2.5 out of 5 on the AH scale, and OP gets nothing. Let's now jump onto the next story from similar_self8507. AITA for ruining my ex-best friend's life, for giving me severe depression, and dating a 13-year-old at 16. For context, we met around 3 years ago when I was in 7th grade and she was in 8th. We're going to call her Emily. Didn't have any friends because of her social anxiety, and she was bullied because of a really bad speech impediment she had. So when she wrote a note to me asking to be my friend, I happily agreed. I was so happy that someone who was extremely shy came out of her shell enough to try and talk to someone. We were friends all the way throughout middle school and into high school, and everything was normal. This is important for later, but she got a crush on a boy who we're going to call Greg, and her mom was very mentally unstable and would always be monitoring her phone and ground her often for really no reason. She rarely got physical, but once or twice she'd come to school with bruises. I did all I could at the time to help, like reporting it to the school, etc. The summer going into 9th grade for me was when she started to get strange. She started frequenting a website called Quotev, where she made a lot of online friends. She became addicted to the website Quotev, spending the whole school day just making feed posts on Quotev. She made a bunch of online friends and wasn't really talking to me anymore. Whenever she did, though, would always snap and yell at me whenever I tried reaching out and asking how she was doing. One day, she went up to me and told me that she was dating someone online. At the time, she was 15 and he was 12. Of course, I was very uncomfortable, so I expressed that. When she told me, I replied with, "You," and the next thing I know, I was blocked by her. I told it very harshly. I messaged her boyfriend and told her to talk to him and told him to apologize to her for me and that I was very sorry, but whatever I did, but she never unblocked me. And on Emily's profile, she would make posts making fun of me and my attempts to reach out again. Finally, after days of me making posts about me apologizing, hoping she'd see them, she unblocked me and messaged me acting like everything is normal. And under all my posts, I made apologizing and crying over my best friend. She replied with "oopies" or "sowie." And when I didn't reply, because who says that she was complaining on her feed about how much of an awful person I was because she went out of her way to forgive me and unblock me, and I'm being a brat and not replying. After some debating, I chose to send her a long message about my problems, about how she's been treating me, etc. And all she replied with was basically telling us to start over, not apologizing for her actions. And we did. I apologized, and she didn't, and our friendship continued. The school year started, and I started 9th grade, and she started 10th, and we were in the same school. But the same things kept happening. Her making fun of me, yelling at me, and being rude to me for reaching out. At the same time, I started talking to her crush, Greg. Greg and me became very close, and around the same time, Emily, who was still dating her boyfriend, who is now 13 and her being 16, asked out her crush Greg. She was polyamorous, I think. He wasn't interested, but didn't know how to say it, so he just pretended that it never happened. Emily, though, instead of asking, just cut him off. She stopped talking to him, but I kept our relationship. We became really good friends, despite Emily not talking to him anymore. She started making posts on her feed about how jealous she was of someone. I just didn't question it, though. After a little while of her continuously treating me bad, and my mental health took a drop. She blew up on me one day about how she was super jealous of me for having a mom that cared about me, and how I was talking to Greg, her crush, and about how I took him from her, even though they weren't dating and hadn't talked in months. After that, I told Quotev that I was taking a break from it for my mental health in a post on my feed, and Emily had turned it into a copy pasta, adding emojis and making fun of it. That was the last straw. I blocked her one night and shut off my phone so I didn't get any messages. I came back at the end of the day to a flurry of notifications and messages from her from an account that she had made specifically to message me on, asking what she did wrong. I blocked that and continued to ignore her. Well, the whole time she was making posts about how she did nothing wrong, and all she did was vented about her abusive mother, and about how she should just keep her feelings inside, and about how much she missed me. I wasn't giving in again, though. All of her friends were convinced that I was in the wrong, and that I was a terrible person, so I blocked all of them too. Life continued as normal. Now me 14F and her 16F at the time. Until I heard that she was talking about me on her story and making fun of me, mentioning how awful I was. I decided that enough was enough, and to finally tell everyone the truth of what happened and about her relationship with her boyfriend. I told everyone that she was dating a 13-year-old at 16, and about how she would make comments about how she wanted him to shove her against the wall and make out with her, or about how hot he was for just a few. And it turned into a show. All of her friends turning on her, and her getting mass reported till she deleted all of her accounts but one, until she eventually got banned off of the platform. All together, all in a matter of hours. All of her friends were on my side and turned on her, and she got banned off the website completely. I know that what she did was terrible, but sometimes I still feel bad for what I did, and that she didn't deserve to lose basically all her friends, even if they were online and were unaware of her horrible actions. Shortened version. My ex-friend was dating a 13-year-old at 16 and would post content about them on her feed and gaslight me into thinking I was a terrible person, even though I did nothing to her that deserved that reaction. I blocked her, and everything was normal until she brought me up again on her story, and I told all her friends about her relationship, and she got banned off of this website that had all her friends on it, objectively losing all her friends. Edit. I'm sorry if this is disorganized or is confusing at parts. There's so much to this story, and I could be missing some important information, if I am please saying in the comments, and I will clarify. OP is not the AH for what she did. Emily manipulated and bullied OP while engaging in an inappropriate relationship. OP's exposing Emily's actions was justified, and OP did nothing wrong in it. While OP feels guilty, Emily got what she deserved, and she is an AH for her behavior. As for scores, I would rate Emily 4 out of 5 on the AH scale, and OP gets a 0. What do the Mac Reddit fans think? Is the OP an AH or not? Let me know in the comment section below. If you like the stories I brought you, just hit the like button, share them as much as you can, and don't forget to subscribe to Mac Reddit for a daily dose. Bye bye! See you tomorrow with some more spicy fries.